Do you know that impossible matter, which seems to be done just to screw you? So I was about to run ugly. It wasn't just a matter of pride, it was my graduation that was at stake. If I disapproved, goodbye internship, goodbye diploma, and worse. My family was going to kill me. The only solution? Talk to Professor Ricardo. He was reputed to be rigorous, but they said that depending on the student, he knew it was flexible. In the beginning, I found it overdoing, but when I went to talk to him, well, let's say the way he looked at me was nothing professional. Julia, you have potential, but you need to know how, please. He analyzed me from top to bottom, taking in the right places. The worst? I felt a shiver. Fear? Perhaps. Excitement? Who knows? But I was desperate, and he knew that. The way he smiled, as if he had already won me, made me uncomfortable, but at the same time, curious. We can discuss your note in particular. I knew I had something wrong, but I accepted, and that's when my hell started. And now? It was too late to go back. When I looked at my notes, I felt an ice in my stomach. I was one step away from disapproval and could not afford to repeat the discipline. This meant losing the internship, delaying my graduation, and dealing with the disappointment of my family. I needed to solve this. Professor Ricardo was known to be demanding, but I had heard stories about certain students who could negotiate notes with him. I didn't want to believe it, but at that moment, any opportunity seemed like a way out. I went to him after class. I explained my situation, tried to argue that I needed a chance. He heard everything with a subtle smile, analyzing me as if he already knew exactly where it was going to give. Do you really want this approval, Julia? Because there are ways to solve it. The tone was suggestive, but I pretended not to understand. He said he could help me, suggested that we did private studies. He said that a dedicated teacher could pay more attention to a hard student. Those words should have warned me, but I could only think of one thing. I needed to pass. And so, without realizing it, I was throwing me straight into the wolf's mouth. Accepted the private studies. Deep down, I knew this wasn't just academic help, but I tried to ignore it. I preferred to believe it was just my imagination. The first session took place at his own office inside the university. The doors were closed, and the atmosphere had a different climate. The low light, the strong smell of coffee, and Ricardo sitting in front of me, watching me with a look too intense to be just academic. He spoke slowly, explained the concepts. Slow, always used to at one point, tracing with his finger the path of. His touch was hot, time-consuming. You need to relax, Julia. Tense students don't learn well. My body crashed. He leaned slightly to the closer, and the woody smell of his perfume invaded my senses. If you trust me, you can get much more than just an approval. He smiled sideways, waiting for my reaction. My hands were sweaty. I wanted to pretend I didn't understand, but it was late. He ran his fingers through his own chin and looked at me with fun. It sounds nervous, but this is normal at first. The game had started, and I was inside him. In the second session, there were no more doubts. Ricardo was not there to teach me. He wanted to play, test my limits, see how far I would go to get what I wanted. This time, he closed the blinds. The atmosphere became stuffy. He sat next to me so close that I could feel the warmth of his body. He pretended to be interested in my notebook, but his attention was elsewhere. You're hardworking, Julia, and I like students who know what they want. I felt a shiver. The tone was casual, but the look was straightforward. He wanted me to understand, and I understood. My head shouted to get out of there, but my newsletter said something else. I needed that approval, so when he suggested that I could have a more exclusive accompaniment, my mouth was dry. After all, some students learn better from different incentives. I did yes, trying to ignore the discomfort. My hands were sweaty, my legs locked. He took a pen, sliding it between his fingers, studying me. You know, Julia, not all students have this opportunity. I just needed a note, nothing beyond that. But deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. I was in a dangerous agreement, and at that moment, I didn't even imagine the price it would pay for him. Approved. The note was there, official, in the university system. I should be relieved, celebrating, but the truth is that fear consumed me. I knew Ricardo was not going to leave me alone. In the last session, before saying goodbye, He gave me a look that froze my spine. I hope we continue in touch. I ignored it. I blocked his number, but it was not long before the anonymous messages start. Screen prints, small sections of recorded videos without my noticing. He had everything. Every look, every meeting in the office, every minimum gesture he interpreted the way he wanted. He manipulated the images, cut pieces, set up a video that suggested something that never happened. It would be a shame if it leaked, Julia. I don't want to do this to you, but I need to make sure our relationship remains healthy. My blood froze. He was blackmailing me. I looked at the phone screen and felt my stomach turned. If that video leaked, my life would be over. Friends, family, college, all destroyed. I thought I had accepted an agreement, but the truth was that I had fallen into a trap. And now, I had no idea how to get out of it. I was terrified. Each time my cell phone vibrated, my heart fired. What if he fulfilled the threat? If that video really leaked, I would lose everything. But Ricardo was not the only one who knew how to play dirty. Between one crisis of despair and another, I began to investigate. I needed something against him, a way to balance the game. If he had an asset against me, I needed to find one against him. That's when I found out. Sowing your social networks, I found what seemed to be a discreet profile without many posts. But a photo caught my attention, a woman, pregnant. And in the caption, "Looking forward to seeing you, love." My blood boiled. Ricardo had a wife, a pregnant wife. I looked at that picture and felt the shock invade me. The man who blackmailed me, who tried to arrest me in his dirty game, was hiding a huge secret. It was deeper. I discovered messages, travel records, comments from friends. He was not only married, he posed as a perfect husband. I finally had something against him. Now the question was no longer if I was going to react, but how I would do that. If he thought he was going to go unpunished, he was very wrong. I was no longer the scared girl he thought to control. Now I had something against him. I spent the night in clear, writing my plan. Ricardo wanted to blackmail me, so I was going to turn the game. The next day I sent a short message to him. "We need to talk. Now." We marked in a discreet coffee away from university. He arrived with that same smug smile, believing he still had power over me. "I hope you came." "With your head in place, Julia." I let him talk, threaten, repeat his dirty plays. He thought I was there to beg, until I took my cell phone and slid the screen to his wife's photo. "Do you know who it is?" She looked so happy, so anxious to have this baby, right? His face lost his color. For the first time, Ricardo was speechless. "If I fall, you fall together. Do you think your wife wouldn't want to know what you are busy?" He swallowed dry, the wide gaze. I tried to hold the smile. I had won. In the end, he deleted everything. He assured me that he would never look for me again. And me, I left without looking back. But one thing was certain. I would never let anyone take me hostage again. I thought it was all over, that he had learned the lesson and was going to disappear from my life. But I underestimated the domino effect of a dirty secret. 2 days later, I received an unexpected message. Of his wife. "We can talk?" My heart fired. How did she get my contact? Did he tell anything? I answered with caution, and we made an appointment. She arrived seriously, her eyes loaded with worry. He put his cell phone on the table and squeezed the play. The recording began to play. His voice, soft, manipulative, saying exactly the same phrases I had told me. But it wasn't with me. "You're not the only one, Julia." I swallowed. She already knew everything. The next day, Ricardo was removed from the university. The complaints came in avalanche. I was not the only victim. Other girls appeared, each with similar stories. He tried to flee, tried to justify himself, but there was no way out. The wife left him. His position was suspended. He lost everything, and for the first time, he experienced the taste of the fear he tried to impose on me. Ricardo fell, and me? I was finally free. But what happened to me, I will never forget. After all, I was finally free. But was it really? I got rid of Ricardo. The fear, the blackmail, the weight of that situation. But what he did to me, it didn't disappear. I spent sleepless nights, reliving every detail, wondering how I got there. How did I allow anyone to have so much power over me? How did the university let this happen so many times before? The truth is that I was never the same. Something inside me has changed. I learned to read signs, to distrust too kind smiles, to question easy promises. I learned that, as much as we think they have control, there is always someone willing to test our limits. But I also learned to impose myself, not to accept being silenced, understanding that the error was never mine. Ricardo lost everything, but what I lost, I will never recover again. Fear, insecurity, the invisible marks he has left in me, I carry to this day. What I lived marked me forever. But one thing I promised myself, I will never let someone put me in this position again. And if someone tries, well, now I know exactly how to turn the game. If there's something this story taught me, the danger may be where we least expect it. I entered that room just wanting an approval. I left there forever, but I learned that no one has the right to hostage us. What blackmail, abuse of power, and manipulation cannot be tolerated. Today, I look back and realize that, no matter how much I suffered, I won. I was not destroyed by him. I didn't let him keep doing this to other girls. But what if I hadn't found that information about him? What if he had gone to the end with his threat? How many other students went through this and never had a way to defend themselves? How many are still stuck in this dirty game with no way out? So if you are seeing this video and have already lived something like, don't shut up, do not allow you to hostage you. There is always a way out. And if you never went through this, remember, power corrupts. Never blindly trust those who have control over your destination. Now tell me, have you ever lived something like this? What would have done in my place? Leave your comment, subscribe to the channel, and activates the bell. We see each other in the next video.